Hey you guys, what's up? In today's video, I'm going to be trying out another new Colourpop collection. Today we have the new Colourpop Stone collection. In this collection, we have 2 eyeshadow palettes and some new shades of their Fresh Kiss lip creams. So I'm going to be creating 2 eye looks with the new eyeshadow palettes, and then I'll also be doing lip swatches of all of the lip creams. So I hope you guys are all excited about today's video. If you are, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, let's go ahead and do close-ups and swatches of everything that comes in the Stone collection. So first up, we have the Set in Stone eyeshadow palette. This one is a stunning warm-toned 10-pan eyeshadow palette. I love the square pans. Here are all of the shades up close. So the top row has all shimmers, and then we have one cream right here, which is very interesting to me because I have not seen a cream in any of Colourpop's like more recent eyeshadow palettes. I don't know if they've ever done it. And then the bottom row is all mattes. So first up we have the cream called Rock Solid. There is that shade. It seems to have a pretty decent pigmentation. It feels very creamy. I would only be worried that it would dry out in the future. Next is Stonework. Concrete. Hammer Time. Gorgeous. Dimensional. Lookin' Sharp. Gravel. So Chiseled. Igneous. And Steady. So here are all of the shades in the Set in Stone palette. Gorgeous color story. It kind of reminds me of some shades from Bare Necessities, but maybe just a little bit warmer. Then we also have the Twist of Slate palette. And this one is a stunning, more gray toned 10-pan eyeshadow palette. Once again, in the top row, we have one cream shadow and the rest are shimmers. And then the bottom row is all mattes. Here are the shades up super close. Moving on to swatches. First, we have the shade In the Stars, which is the cream. Then we have the shade Mika, Fortunate One, Carbon, To the Quarry, So Faded, Take a Chance, Cool Down, Night Vision, and Sleek Over. Alright, so here are all of the shades from the Twist of Slate palette swatched. This palette reminds me of Stone Cold Fox. I don't know if they did that like on purpose, but both of these palettes kind of remind me of Bare Necessities and Stone Cold Fox, but smaller versions. So if you always have wanted those palettes but you didn't want the giant 30-pan palette, these 10-pan palettes are a great option. Also in this collection, we have 4 shades of the Fresh Kiss lip creams. First up is the shade Monolith. Ooh, that's a gorgeous shade, and I love the formula of these. Super pretty. Next, we have Cornerstone. Okay, also love this shade. Wow, these are so pretty. This one is called Gone Graphite. Ooh, okay, this one is like a nice brown. Wow, love that. These remind me of like 90s shades. And lastly, we have Collet Quits. Yeah, I'm like totally getting like 90s vibes from these. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, but I actually really like these shades. So now we're gonna move on to the demo part of this video where I'm gonna create these 2 eye looks for you guys. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is prime my lids with my P. Louise base, and I'm just going to put this all over both lids, just kind of tapping in with my finger. I do like a tacky base. So I'm first gonna go in with the Set in Stone palette. And I'm really curious about these cream eyeshadows in here, so I just have to use these. So I think I'm gonna first start out with the cream shade. I'm not really sure how I wanna use this, but I'm just going to take it on a small brush and just start kind of mapping out the shape of my crease, and then I'm gonna start blending it upward. I'm assuming you can just use this as like an eyeshadow base, I guess. I like that it's a lighter shade because I would be like scared to use a darker cream eyeshadow. I'm actually not like too familiar with cream eyeshadows. I don't ever use them. I can't really even think of a time that I've really used a cream eyeshadow. All right, so that just gave a very nice like light wash of color. Now I'm gonna pick up the shade called Gravel, and I'm gonna just tap off a bunch of that. And since I put that cream eyeshadow down, I'm gonna kind of just tap this shade right over top, just to kind of set the cream shadow. And then once I feel like it's set in place, I'm going to start kind of swirling my brush around to blend it all out and make it look nice and smooth. Now I'm going to go in with the shade So Chiseled, and I'm going to go in with a smaller brush with this shade, first starting out on the outer corner, and then once I kind of place the shade, I will nice and tightly blend this into my crease. Now I'm going to take the shade called Steady, and I have this on a super tiny blending brush, and I'm just going to kind of start by blending this along the outer corner again, and then I will just blend very close to the lid, like, but still in the crease area. So off camera, I just took some concealer and kind of carved out the shape I wanted for my lid. Now I'm going to first take this shade right here, and I'm going to pop this one right on the inner corner area, just keeping this on the inner third of the lid. Now I'm going to take the shade Concrete, and I'm going to apply this down the center of the lid, kind of blending these two shades together. And lastly for the lid, I'm going to apply the shade Hammer Time. So once I have all of my lid shades down, I will go back in with the shades that I used in my crease and just very lightly run them all along the lid, just so everything looks nice and blended. So I'm adding that darker shade back on the outer corner right here, trying to blend it in with the outer lid shade. And then once there's like no product left on the brush, I will just kind of run it all along the lid, just so everything looks kind of like blended together. Even though it's technically supposed to be like a cut crease look, I just kind of like to blend the shades back along the lid. So now I'm going to take the shade called Lookin' Sharp, and I love that they put this in here. I personally like shades like this to kind of clean up this like inner corner area. I will just apply a nice matte kind of cream shade right here in case any of my crease shades went over on to the inner corner area. And then I'm also going to apply this right underneath the brow bone as well. And then sometimes I do like to kind of bring it along the outer part of my lid just to also clean up this area as well. So moving on to the lower lash line, I'm just going to use the same shades that I used in my crease. So first starting out with that super deep brown shade, I'm just going to blend that one like very close to the lash line. And then I will go in with the lighter shades, and these can go a little bit lower, but I'm basically going to do the same thing, just blending along the edges. And then I like to take the lightest shade on a fluffier brush to really buff out those edges, just so everything looks nice and blended together. And then making sure to connect to the outer corner over here. All right, so here is eye look number one complete. A very simple, kind of warm toned glam look. I personally love looks like this. It's kind of like my go-to type of eye look when I have a palette like that. So now we're gonna go into the Twist of Slate palette. And this one is the more gray tone palette, obviously. And I feel like this one's gonna be a little bit trickier, but we're gonna go ahead and probably start out with the same type of look, doing the cream shade first. All right, so I just picked up that cream shade on a tiny little brush, and I'm just going to start blending this out all along the shape of my crease. Kind of tap with my finger. I feel like cream shade should be easy to blend with the finger, and yeah, it actually blends easier with your finger than it did with that type of brush. You might be able to blend this nicer with a fluffier brush as well. All right, I actually really like these cream shades. I feel like they're a little bit lighter than some of the matte shades in the palette, so they make a nice like base and transition shade as well. So now I'm gonna take the shade called So Faded, and I'm just gonna start kind of tapping this in my crease. I might go a little bit lower than that cream shade, just because I feel like the shade is just a little bit darker, and I kind of want to keep that light pinky shade up towards the top. So I'm just tapping this a little bit farther down than I did with that cream shade, and then once I feel like it's kind of set, I'm going to blend back and forth. Now I'm going to pick up the shade called Cool Down, and this shade is a little bit darker than I would normally go in with next, but I think we can make it work. So I'm just going to kind of tap it on the outer corner with a little brush, and then I will slowly kind of diffuse the edges and blend outwards and a little bit upwards. I really want to do like a gray eye look with this palette, because there are some more like warm and taupey shades. Not really warm, I guess. More like neutral taupey shades. So I want to do just like a more cool tone look since the other eye is so warm. Just gonna kind of keep building up this shade because I don't want to go in too heavy-handed. So now I'm going to go in with the shade Night Vision. And this one's going to be my like deep outer corner shade. So I'm just going to blend this along the outer corner with a tiny little blending brush. And then once pretty much no product is left on the brush is when I will kind of go right along the crease area. So once again, I did add some concealer to my lid just to create a nice base for these shimmery shades. So I'm first going to go in with the shade Mika. I feel like the shimmery shades in this palette are just so pretty. I really like them a lot. And I'm going to do the same thing as I did on the other eye, putting the lightest shade on the inner part of the lid. This shade is like probably one of my favorites. I just love shades like this. Now I'm going to take the shade Fortunate One, and this shade's going to go down the center of the lid. This shade reminds me so much of this eyeshadow that I always wore in high school. It was from MAC, and I want to say it was called like Satin Taupe. Man, I loved that shade whenever I was in high school. And lastly, I'm going to pick up the shade called Carbon, and I'm just going to apply this one on the outer part of the lid. So then once again, once the lid shades are down, I'm just going to run my brush all along those shades because I like everything to look nice and blended. I'm also going to add a little bit more of the outer corner shade over here, just kind of tapping it so that it blends with that shimmer shade on the lid. So now just adding those same crease shades to the lower lash line, making sure that I connect with the outer corner. Alright, so here is eye look number 2 complete. I really like the way that it turned out. I think I prefer the gray eye over the more warm toned eye just because it's a little bit different than what I would normally go for. Typically, I would do more of like an eye look like this. So this one's a little bit more out of my comfort zone, but I actually really like it. So now I'm going to show you guys these two palettes compared to Stone Cold Fox and Bare Necessities, just because I feel like they are pretty similar. So here is Bare Necessities, and then we have the Set in Stone palette. So here are the palettes side by side. Obviously, they're not exactly the same, but there are definitely some similar shades between the palettes. So as I said earlier, if you have been eyeing Bare Necessities but you don't want this giant palette, you might really like the Set in Stone palette. Then we have Stone Cold Fox and Twist of Slate. Here are these two palettes side by side. I feel like these are very similar, a little bit more similar than the other two palettes. You can definitely find shades between these two palettes that are probably almost identical. So yeah, Stone Cold Fox is one of my favorites, but if you don't like having big palettes like this and you want something smaller to travel with, then you probably will really like this new Twist of Slate palette. Alright, so far so good with the eyeshadow palettes. Now we're going to try out the lip creams, and I'm going to be doing lip swatches of all 4 shades. So first up we have the shade Call It Quits. This shade is like way out of my comfort zone. It is a dark like chocolatey brown. Alright, so here is the first shade. I'm actually surprised that I do like it more on the lips than I did just like looking at it in the bottle and swatching it on my arm. I was like really scared I wasn't going to like this shade, but I actually think it looks really pretty, and I feel like this one will look so nice on so many different skin tones. And I will say that I love the formula of the lip creams. They're just super comfortable on the lips, and they make your lips look like super smooth. So yeah, here is the shade Call It Quits. Next up we have Gone Graphite. Alright, definitely not my best lip swatch, but this was another shade that I thought I wasn't going to really like. And I think it's just very interesting on the lips. I'm surprised that I do actually kind of like it because I never really go for shades like this. And yeah, I'm just really impressed that Colourpop came out with these two shades because I feel like these are not like normal shades that they would come out with. I just feel like they're a little bit different for Colourpop, so that actually makes me very excited. So yeah, this one was called Gone Graphite. Next up is the shade Cornerstone. So here's this shade. I love this one. Probably going to be one of my favorites from this collection, and I feel like this one will look really nice on a bunch of different skin tones. And lastly, we have the shade Monolith. So here is the final shade. Love this one. It's a really pretty nude. So yeah, that is everything from the new Colourpop Stone collection. I'm actually really impressed with this collection. I think that the lip shades just really stand out for me. I love the formula of the Fresh Kiss lip creams. They're one of my favorite lip formulas from Colourpop. And I love that these shades are all so different from each other because sometimes Colourpop can come out with collections that have like very similar lip shades. I feel like these are all very different from each other, and they're all really pretty in their own way. And we have some unique shades with this collection, so I would highly recommend recommend the lip products from this collection. And then I think the eyeshadow palettes are great. These are the perfect size palettes to travel with. I really love how both eye looks turned out, and I really love that they included a cream shade in both of these palettes. I just feel like Colourpop has been trying out some new things recently, and I really like it because they have so many different launches, so I like that these are a little bit more unique than some of their other palettes. If you guys have Bare Necessities or Stone Cold Fox, you definitely don't need these two palettes, but if you've been eyeing those bigger palettes and you want something a little bit smaller, then these will both be great for you because the color stories are very similar to those two mega palettes that they have. So yeah, another great collection from Colourpop. A big thank you to them for sending this collection over. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on the new Stone collection. So I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. If you guys enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Also make sure you have your notifications turned on, that way you don't miss out on any of my future videos. All you have to do is click the bell next to the subscribe button, and then you'll receive a notification every time I upload a new video. And I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.